The 2080 Ti was once a $1,000 MSRP graphics card, but it now competes with Nvidia's cheapest entry-level GPU.
And that is the RTX 5050. Is the god-tier GPU from years ago still a good option though on the used market? We're gonna benchmark it and find out after a word from today's sponsor.
Wow, Matt, an RTX 3050 6 I can finally finish my gaming PC.
You're welcome, but there is only one thing I didn't get you.
What did you not get me?
I couldn't get you a Windows activation key.
So does that mean I'm not gonna have like certain features, and is that like annoying watermark gonna be in the bottom corner? I don't have an extra like $100, $200 to spend.
Well, actually, no. With today's video sponsor, GVG Mall, you can get a Windows 11 key for super cheap. GVG Mall is our go-to when it comes to discounted Windows CD keys.
It's super simple to get a Windows key. Use the link in the description below and find the key that matches your version of Windows. And once you add that key to your cart, use our discount code TB20 to save money at checkout. Follow the secure and easy checkout process and your code will be instantly sent to you hassle-free.
From there, you take the key, plug it into your Windows activation section in settings, and boom, you now have access to all Windows features at a great price. For trouble-free, affordable Windows CD keys with 24/7 support, use our link in the description down below.
So thanks to GVG Mall for sponsoring today's video.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, the RTX 2080 Ti was an awesome GPU. It was one of the first $1,000 consumer grade GPUs that wasn't like a Titan card, and it had 11 gigs of VRAM, kind of like the previous 1080 Ti. And they're a lot cheaper now. We're talking maybe like $209.
Very specifically $209 with the model we have right here, which is a PNY blower cell card we bought on eBay. Look at it bounce. Look at her go. But yeah, we paid $209 for this graphics card that released in 2018 that was originally a $1,000 GPU, but some of the key things that make it interesting compared to the new option are the fact that it comes with 11 gigs of VRAM, and it is a higher end GPU. So in theory, will this old GPU compete with the budget option for Nvidia of today? But let's talk about the key specs you should know about each card and the test bench we're gonna test them in. Now, as I mentioned, the 2080 Ti was released on September 20th of 2018 at a $999 price tag. This is a PCI 3.0 by 16 GPU with 11 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM. They actually have the same type of VRAM, that's kind of funny. And a 250 watt TDP. Our specific model in terms of video out has a lot of options. We actually have 3 DisplayPort, 1 HDMI, and a USB-C, which is most likely a DisplayPort out, so that's pretty cool. A lot of video outs with this graphics card.
Now going on to the RTX 5050, our new budget option, July 1st of 2025 was the release date, a launch price of $249.99, which is still pretty close to MSRP. The GPU is actually PCIe Gen 5 by 8. It has 8 gigs of GDDR6, and this card is a measly 130 watt TDP. It really only ever requires one 8-pin, and it's a pretty good looking card here. We actually have like a nice 3-fan model, but we have a similar display out situation. We actually have 2 DisplayPort, 2 HDMI. So 4 monitors is actually pretty good for the budget entry-level GPU.
Now to test these GPUs, because we're in the $200 price point, I think you're gonna be putting this in, let's say, a more mid-range system. We wanna get a realistic test bench going here with our mid-range test bench with a 9600X and 32 gigs of DDR5 memory. Everything else pretty self-explanatory, an ASRock B850 motherboard and a 2TB SSD that is Gen 4. And again, it's our open air test bench, and it's gonna be a good way for us to see, is this mid-range system gonna be better for a 2080 Ti, a card that was once $1,000, or the new option from Nvidia at the similar price point? We're talking about $209 versus $250 here. Again, you're paying more money for the new option, but is used always better? We're gonna dive some testing and find out.
All right, ladies and gents, we're in Battlefield 6 on the good old 2080 Ti. I mean, we're talking like close to a 7-year-old card now. It's pretty crazy, the time flies. I remember my 2080. I always wished it was a 2080 Ti instead of a Super, but here we are. We got the VRAM. Definitely a little bit more VRAM than our 5050.
11 gigs, yep. And we're running 1080p high settings. I won't have Jackson show the settings because it might mess up our new averages because, well, we have that now. We can show average and 1% low FPSs on the fly.
You say I should or shouldn't?
You can show it, but you probably want to restart the averages because it might... Actually, no, never mind. In this game, it doesn't matter. Some games, it might pause the FPS counter, so.
Right, okay, so we're... Oh, that's... So we're running a custom graphics quality set to high. This is the preset. We are not using any upscaling. So honestly, we're testing the raw performance, and it's probably gonna be good for the 2080 Ti, because if we're being honest, I mean, having some modern DLSS and stuff on the 5050 is probably gonna give it a pretty cutting edge. I know a lot of you guys don't like that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, we're talking about the difference of this card being around $209, which again is a deal. You can find these for about $210 to $220 versus $250 for the 5050, or a little bit cheaper if you find them for like $239, $240, something like that. So this card is cheaper. So we'll see exactly what the performance difference is like. And we've been no strangers to telling you all that the used market hasn't been amazing. So it would be cool to see a card like this do a good job.
Yeah, one thing new that we added too is you can see our average FPS and our 1% low, which should just basically start from the time that we start recording the averages. So basically the whole time we've been benchmarking. Oh my God.
Yep.
Bing, 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 bing.
Because you guys always say, well, these guys are saying an average, and it's kind of a guess. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of is a guess. But we can actually give you an average now for the full run of the game.
Yeah, which especially for like these tests are pretty useful. For like our normal graphics cards, like when we're just like, we're not comparing, it's kind of like whatever, but I understand people wanting to actually see some comparisons here.
Pretty good for high settings 1080p. Obviously, we could go 1440p, which we will be doing with the side-by-side benchmarks to give you both sides of it, because having that extra VRAM will help out at 1440p for the 2080 Ti. But the 5050 isn't even really like advertised as a 1440p card, so.
But hey, comparatively, you know, to when the 2080 Ti was top dog, it's not bad. If only this card was out like 7 years ago, right? Oh God, I'm like struggling. There's like a sea of people, and I'm
Gonna hit those.
No.
Let's
Yes,
go.
we got one through the schmork. This is it. This is all or nothing, guys.
It's your last life.
Oh God.
Oh.
Man, only machines? Freaking AI. I knew they were gonna get to me. All right, so we'll just say 2080 Ti at these, you know, high preset with no upscaling. 97.
The 1% low of 68. We can get the 1% lows, baby. Sounds good. Let's see what the 5050 can do.
We are back in Battlefield 6. We're now on our very budget 5050 graphics card with 8 gigs of VRAM GDDR6, isn't it? Because it's in the desktop.
Yeah, and the laptop
funny.
7 for some reason.
Yeah, but you can see we're on a different map. Before, I think we were on the city map. So
Yes.
I'd imagine this one might, I don't know, maybe slightly harder to run, maybe slightly easier. But regardless, getting just a little bit less FPS, it looks like.
Yeah, a little bit less. So with 2080 Ti, we're getting about a 97 FPS average with the 1% low of 68. Obviously, it'll run around for a little while longer
change,
and see
yeah.
what it ends up being. And there is a bit of variance when you go to that menu that just skyrocketed to 100 FPS. But again, you know, we showed the entire thing throughout the run, and yeah, I mean, it seems like just a little bit less, which is kind of what we expected in raw horsepower. It's really going to be interesting when we test the ray trace focused titles, if that's going to be a difference.
And one thing you do have to remember is, you know, we're testing both of these out. We're giving the 2080 Ti its best case scenario because we're not using any type of upscaling.
Yeah.
If we were doing upscaling, the 5050 would very likely be, you know, doing better than the 2080 Ti comparatively if it was doing upscaling as well, just because, you know, this is newer. Oh my goodness, it's a lot of
You get that DLSS 4 support, you get all the
Yeah.
new upscaling features that the 5050 offers.
runs ray tracing a little better.
Yeah.
And we're using, what were we using before, like 220?
Yes,
200?
we were using like 240, 250 watts.
We're using half the watts.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that goes a further way than people think, too. I mean, it's almost like the equivalent of running like a mini space heater versus not running a mini space heater while you're gaming.
Yeah.
Is it a tank? Oh my God.
It's a tank.
It's just menacingly sitting there.
And depending on your scenario, if you're looking to upgrade an older PC or an office PC that has a power connector, maybe a smaller power supply, 5050 is your best option at that point. So
It only
really
needs one
depends.
8-pin versus the 2. Sometimes I think there are some 28 tests that need 3 8-pins even.
Yeah.
We get in here. This is it. This is the other for all the marbles life. Please let me just get like okay, there we go. Like I'm like, let me get like a hit marker, just anything. There's so many people here. Maybe I need to focus. What?
Whoa, the what? It's the 5050.
What? Oh, it's the fake frames that we're not
Fake
running.
frames that we're not using.
Dude, there's so many. That's like, there's something so upsetting about there being like so many chances to kill people, and I just can't. Oh, I got a collateral.
You can also
There we go.
examine all of them.
All right, well, so it looks like for Battlefield, you know, maybe about 7 to 10 less FPS on average. So the 1% lows, what?
See, 1% low before we were getting about 70.
Okay.
So 94
That's pretty
average,
close.
67, 1% low is what we're going to run with.
Very close for Battlefield, but let's go ahead and test it out in the next game.
All right, guys, I'll show you guys the settings first on what we're running on this 2080 Ti, and then again the 5050, but we're in the practice range of Arc Raiders running the following settings. Settings are always hard to find in this game. So let's go to graphics. So we're at 1080p. Reflex is on. We're on TAAU upscaling. We're not using DLSS because, actually we could use DLSS. You know what, I'm gonna change that. We're gonna use DLSS set to DLAA because we do have a GPU with the 5050 that can also run DLSS. So we're gonna run that. The DLSS model will be CNN, so we'll leave that the same. And then we're running a media ray tracing preset on high settings. The ray tracing part's where things might get a little interesting with the 5050. So we're going back out, we're gonna hit page up to record. And let's walk around a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. So I will say, frame times look okay, but they're definitely a little bit higher. 1% lows look okay. But this is definitely a game where I think you're going to want to run maybe no ray tracing if you're going to get a super smooth experience, but you are still getting 90 FPS. And it looks good.
It does look good. Doesn't look like you're on Nvidia GeForce Now or anything.
And it doesn't look like you're game streaming like that other video, but looks good. The averages are pretty solid, around 90. This game, and someone can tell me if this is just the practice range, it has this weird like shadow punch in that we noticed with our game streaming testing. We weren't able to tell if that's just the practice range or if how this game engine works or whatever settings we're running, but running the DLSS and everything, yeah, at 89 FPS on average, no major stutters. Again, this is in practice range to keep things a little bit consistent, so it's not gonna be absolutely perfect to real world, but let's come up here. It does give you a little bit of an idea, apples to apples between the two GPUs on these settings. And obviously, you don't have to run the same settings for each one of these GPUs. You can decide whatever you wanna do.
Looking good.
Looking good. 240 watts, by the way. I don't think we pointed that out when we were testing it originally on Battlefield. You're pulling way more watts than the 5050. The 5050 is close to the point where you could most certainly just get away with like no external power. It's very close, but they just weren't able to get it exactly there. Yeah, pretty comfortably, 90 FPS average with 1% low of 70. Let's go ahead and do the same little run with the 5050 and see if the extra new ray tracing horsepower will make a difference. Same settings as before. DLAA set to CNN model, so we're using DLSS, DLAA anti-aliasing, not upscaling. Currently running at 80 FOV, high settings with the medium ray tracing. And last time we got about a 94 FPS average. We're gonna hit page up and let this roll, baby. Now we are just in the practice range. Bop, 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 bop. Yeah, we're gonna walk around here real quick and just see what we can get, but this is looking pretty close. We're the 1% lows. Yeah, 90 70. Average of the 71% low. This looks a little bit higher, actually. So again, this is probably a scenario where just slightly better ray tracing performance might be helping us out a bit in a game like this, but I will say this game runs very well on a lot of things. So, you know, is this a end all be all for this benchmark run? Maybe not, but it's cool to see it nonetheless.
Yeah, it definitely makes, it's why we always are struggling with the used market. It's just, at the end of the day, you'll see a 2080 Ti, which is a card that Matt and I mean, this is a $1,000 graphics card, and we'll be like, man, you're telling me that's under like $200 or right at like $200, like, oh, that's a great deal. But then you have to think about the new cards with a new warranty. It's not been heavily used, and maybe it wasn't used for mining as well. And you know that it's more power efficient, and you're like, oh, I get 4 less percentage of performance. To me, it'd be worth just going new.
And definitely 1080p. We will be doing 4240p benchmarks that may tell you a slightly different story depending on what you're looking for. But we're talking all new right now, 1080p. I mean, I'll go ahead and walk right here and we'll end the benchmark run and do a page down. 93 average with a 1% low of 73. That is definitely an improvement over the 2080 Ti on these same settings. So first win for the 5050. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game and see what we got. All right, guys, the next game we have up is Doom: The Dark Ages, and I'm gonna show you guys the settings we're currently running. We are running 1080p. We are not running any resolution scaling. I'm not gonna mess that up this time. And we're currently running with no upscaling on medium settings. So again, we don't have no path tracing on because path tracing would most likely break this graphics card. It's just not gonna handle path tracing, but the game engine in itself has built-in ray tracing that in theory will be different between this card and the 5050. We'll see how that goes. So again, on medium settings, we're gonna go ahead and start our benchmark with a little page up, and let's run around this area real quick. And we're getting 70 to 80 FPS, not too bad. Things feel somewhat smooth. I wouldn't say it's the smoothest experience with those frame times being a little bit higher, but it's a playable experience. It's one of those where I would run this. I personally would probably run with some upscaling to really secure a good FPS average. To maybe get in like the hundreds to try to make things a little bit smoother, but I can live with this. About 80 FPS on average. Just gonna run around a little bit longer. Maybe I'll die instantly. Let's find out. 80 FPS, 100% load on the GPU. We are pulling 248 watts, which is a lot of watts, but the FPS numbers are holding up pretty decently. Am I gonna die here? I might die off this guy. Oh no, I'm like critical health now. Let's go. Okay guys, yeah, I would say an average of about 81 FPS, 1% low of 70. We'll go ahead and page down that so I can save those settings, but I'm curious. I actually think the 5050 might do better in this game just because of the ray tracing performance, but we'll see. Raw GPU horsepower-wise, I could be totally off base. Let's switch to the 5050 and see how it does in Doom.
So we're back in Doom: The Dark Ages, and it's looking pretty worse, I think.
Surprising. I wonder if the VRAM may have to do with something at 1080p on these
Maybe.
settings. That might be it, because that's the only thing I would think, especially after seeing Arc Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we're basically using about all the VRAM. I mean, there could be more going on in the background. We're using all of the GPU too.
Yeah, I mean, for comparison, we're getting an average of 81 with a 1% low of 71. So this is a pretty
1%.
decent difference. Yeah, 1% lows are down to
did the
45. So you did the checkpoint.
Yeah, no, this is one where, yeah, it must be something to do with the VRAM or just something to do with maybe there's like a little more raw performance in the 2080 Ti. But that's something to think about if you're like a Doom the Dark Ages player.
Doom the Dark Ages, unoptimized
Specifically.
titles. That's the weird thing is like you don't really know anymore what GPU's gonna be better because like some of these unoptimized titles and they really just want a ton of horsepower and wattages and 2080 Ti on paper is faster, but like some of these really like the other technologies and that's where the 5050 will do better. So, you know, it's kind of a toss in the air, but 62 FPS average on this one with a 1% low of 46. All right, guys, before we drop in, I'm gonna show you guys the settings we're currently running on Fortnite, which it's back, baby. We're bringing Fortnite back mainly because, hey, it's a good test for someone with a budget GPU. We're currently running some TAA anti-aliasing, far reach distance and low textures on DX12. And we're going to hit page up. Let's record those FPS numbers, baby. Now, I've not played Fortnite in a while, so bear with me. We are in zero build. And you might be wondering, why are you testing Fortnite, Matt? Well, this is a game I haven't tested in a while, and it's a game that I like to test because it's a good esports title that surprisingly still has some popularity going on with it. I thought this game was dead a long time ago, but either way, this is gonna be a fun benchmark just to show you guys, hey, if you really pair this with a CPU like a 9600X, which I think both GPUs are reasonable, especially in this market, to pair with this kind of CPU, even though this game is very much a CPU-bound game, you could still get some good data from it. Oh, that was embarrassing. I've not played Fortnite in a while. Wow, that was embarrassing. Holy crap, McAllister, do not zoom in on that. Whatever you do not zoom in on that. That was bad. That's quite the shooting there, Matt. And we're getting about 248 FPS on average. 1% low is about 67. We did do the drop. Well, we did start recording when we dropped in from the battle bus, which normally is the part where you get a bit of lag. So it probably will start going up as we continue this run. But yeah, no, this is playable, very playable. Yeah, CPU, I'm still using a lot of our CPU here, but GPU, it's not like it's not being used. It's at like 99% usage at times, 98. So this game will utilize your GPU. I know this is a CPU-bound game, but GPU does matter for sure. But to keep things consistent, I won't go too much further than this. We'll go ahead and run our way back down here and we'll stop our little FPS recorder and see what we're working with. But pretty comfortably, 284 FPS, not in the 300s. I'm curious to see what the 5050 is going to do. Again, we're more CPU bound here, but a newer GPU like the 5050 may have more advantages in getting like higher average FPS numbers. Not to say 284 or 286 is not good. I think it's very good. And you can definitely play this at 1440p if you want to, but I'm curious. What would the 5050 be like? Let's swap to that card. All right, guys, same settings. We're in Fortnite just to verify. Look at them. They're the same. Boom, boom.
Look at it.
Now we went to Humble Hills, which I think is very ironic because it's a bunch of fancy houses in Humble Hills. It's kind of crazy. We're going to drop to Humble Hills and we're going to hit page up right now, baby. Let's see what kind of FPS average we're getting. Once again, comparing, we were looking at 286 average with 1% low of 88 before. But now that we can show you guys the average of 1% lows, we can at least give you some numbers on screen. So, you know, you get a little more data to work with. Realistically, unless you're somebody who's building a PC from scratch and has a system that makes sense for the 2080 Ti, if you're like playing Fortnite mainly, I probably would still push you in the direction of the 5050 because I'd imagine once I land here, it's not going to be that much less if it is less. And also the power requirement, way less. And I don't know, 5050 just makes more sense for this game. All over the place. 170 at time, 220. Let's just let those averages work out and then we will go from there. Yeah, an R2080 Ti on an open air test bench was hitting 82 degrees Celsius. That thing's probably due for a repacing. I'll be honest with you, for our video, we're gonna put it in a Z4 G4, so be ready for that one.
So that's one thing to note too is we are running our 5050 with the most ideal candidate, which is a Gen 5 CPU and motherboard.
Yep.
For something like that HP, if we were to put the 5050 in it, it would probably do a good amount worse than the 2080 Ti just because 2080 Ti is a Gen 3 card.
Yep, so it's all about your use case also with these, not just the raw performance. Which one will make more sense for you? I don't know, I'm just here to make a video. I don't know what you want from me. Okay, trying to keep things somewhat consistent. I won't go too far past this area because that's what I did last time. I was able to kill somebody last time, and unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna be the case, but run around here a little bit. Come on, Peter, run around.
There's your fight.
Oh, wait.
Drippy.
All right, we're gonna hit page down. All right, so we're looking at 267 average. We were getting 286 before. So Less FPS on average by a little bit, but it's within the numbers of like, do you really care that much? And would you rather have a new? But it's important to mention, I keep looking over the fact, I will say 5050 on certain other models, not the one we have right here, are around $229 right now, which is a really good deal. The 2080 Ti in this video is cheaper, so that is important to mention as well. We aren't just doing the exact same price, we're talking 209 versus 229/250, depending which model you get. So you are saving money with the faster GPU, but is that use trade-off worth it? We're gonna run some 1440p benchmarks to fully come to that conclusion and then tell you guys what we think of both options, because this isn't a battle I would have thought would have happened. You know, 5050 versus 2080 Ti. Oh wait.
$1,000 versus $240. They're not real. Wait, they might be real.
All right, let's run those other benchmarks and wrap this video up. All right, guys, now that we finished our Let's Play benchmarks, let's do some side-by-side comparisons at 1440p to see if the 5050 is the better option going new, or is the 2080 Ti going to run away with things at 1440p? Let's dive into those benchmarks. First up, we ran Call of Duty Black Ops 7 at 1440p balanced settings with no upscaling using the built-in benchmark tool, and the 2080 Ti got an average of 110 FPS with a 1% low of 84, while the RTX 5050 got slightly less FPS with a 103 average with a 1% low of 77. Again, a slight difference here where the 2080 Ti being the cheaper option is going to be better, but again, you cannot forget the fact that new versus used, you really got to factor in a little bit of extra padding for it being a new option when it comes to the 5050. Next up, CS2 1440p high settings with the 2080 Ti, we got an average of 253.4 FPS with a 1% low of 109.2, while the RTX 5050 got an average of 190.4 FPS with 1% low of 82. This was a pretty big difference. Once again, in a game that doesn't have any ray tracing, the raw horsepower of the 2080 Ti is going to win out, albeit at a higher power draw. It is still the more powerful overall GPU compared to the new RTX 5050. Next up, Cyberpunk 1440p medium settings with no upscaling. That 2080 Ti got an average of 75.59 FPS, a minimum of 66.08, and a max of 88.71, while the 5050 got an average of 59 FPS with a minimum of 51 and a max of 70. Again, a AAA title here. Again, a little bit older of a AAA title, but it's really taking advantage of the 11 gigs of VRAM and just being an overall faster GPU. I think it's really starting to show at 1440p. If you are a gamer at 1440p, that 2080 Ti is a really good deal. And as we kind of hinted during the benchmarks, stay subscribed. We're going to be doing a video where we build a $600 office PC upgrade with the 2080 Ti. It's going to be good for 1440p gaming, so stay sub for that one. And lastly, of course, 3D Mark Time Spy, where we take the GPU score and figure out a cent per point calculation to figure out the best price to performance option based on the score generated. And with the 2080 Ti, we got a GPU score of 13,588, which is a 0.0154 cent per point score, while the RTX 5050 got a score of 10,314, which is a 0.0241 cent per point score. So in terms of overall price to performance, the 2080 Ti is the better bang for buck. And in given current market pricing, and if you have a scenario where maybe you're building a new PC or upgrading an older PC that has the power supply to handle it, the 2080 Ti on the used market should definitely be a GPU you should keep an eye out for. So now we finished all the benchmarks from today's video. Let's bring Jackson back in here and wrap this video up.
So I think the test ended up being pretty interesting because they kind of went back and forth at times. Now the 2080 Ti seems like overall on average, it was slightly better, especially in those games that don't need ray tracing. I mean, because let's be real, this is a 2080 Ti. It's still a very powerful GPU, but obviously with that older powerfulness comes a lot of watts. We're talking like double the wattage. So that is something to think about in terms of like the heat with your electric bill. You are going to be spending more money in the long run on the 2080 Ti.
And unless you're playing at 1440p, which our benchmark showed you guys, 1440p is where the 2080 Ti will shine. The 5050 is the better new option. Again, you can only buy this used, so really it is the better option to go new if you want to go new. But at this price point of like $200 to $250, you really can't go wrong with either. But I think the definitive answer is game at 1440p, go with the 2080 Ti. If you want to play at 1080p with some ray trace titles, go with the RTX 5050. And especially if you're upgrading an older system with a weak power supply, go with the 5050. Or you have a lot of wattage to work with, 2080 Ti is a good option. But I want to hear from you guys. Which one of these GPUs are you buying down below? And did this benchmark run change your mind at all about the 5050? A card that does get a lot of hate. Let us know in the comments down below.
And as always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you check out our other two YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/toastybros. And do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
See you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Now, the 5050 is a GPU we use all the time at PCBros.tech. And hey, 2080 Ti, it'll probably end up in a custom rig.
I could be wrong, but An HP, yes. I could be wrong also. I think we have a PC coming to PC Bros with a 5050 that you could buy today ready to go. That's the thing. That's happening. Planned by Jonah. A Jonah exclusive. Go to PC Bros for a budget build option. A budget build option.
It's like an offering and an option.
Yeah, I was combining it together in one word, efficiency. PC Bros. See you guys later. Goodbye.